Austrália passa por um período de transição em direção ao futuro com zero emissões. Várias ações estão sendo tomadas para garantir essa transformação.
Well, Australia is really ideally suited for renewable energy. We're a very large country with a lot of sunshine, probably more sunshine than anywhere else in the world. But we also are a decentralized country where the population is spread over a very large landmass, and that is a big challenge for the electricity providers to reach all the remote locations, and in many cases renewables are the optimum solution to provide energy on a reliable and economical basis.
So Gold Road is a mid-tier gold miner. We have a gold mine situated in remote Western Australia. It's probably around 1,600 kilometres from Perth, on the edge of the Great Victorian Desert. There's no infrastructure around there. The nearest town is 200 kilometres away, all on dirt roads. So there's not a lot out there.
A Austrália investe em fontes de energia renováveis: solar, eólica, hidrelétrica e bioenergia. Isso inclui o desenvolvimento de grandes projetos de energia renovável em todo o país, bem como o aumento da capacidade de geração de energia renovável distribuída, como sistemas solares residenciais e comerciais.
For us here at Rocky Ridge Brewing, it's really important to be leaders and to demonstrate to other businesses of similar size and other brewers in our industry that it's possible to be off-grid for your energy usage, whether that's with battery backup or whether you are still in some way connected to your localised grid. It's possible to use all of the energy from the sun instead of relying on fossil fuels and fossil fuel generation.
O governo australiano estabeleceu metas ambiciosas de redução de emissões, com o compromisso de zerar as emissões líquidas até 2050. Isso impulsiona a implementação de políticas e incentivos para o desenvolvimento de fontes de energia limpa, reduzindo a dependência de combustíveis fósseis. É importante conhecer como funciona o sistema de compensação para a produção de energia renovável na Austrália.
So we have two different procedures in Australia, one for commercial customer, the other one is for residential customers.
Um sistema comum de energia renovável é conhecido como on-grid. Ele é conectado na rede convencional através de uma homologação, onde o sistema é reconhecido pela distribuidora de energia e passa a gerar créditos.
When we focus on residential customers, most of them install approximately 6 kilowatt small systems, and they are directly grid connected, which means they are exporting energy back to the grid. Actually, that's causing a lot of headaches for network operators, because nowadays there are millions of customers who are actually exporting energy from the residential PV back to the grid at noontime, and that causes a little bit of headache for the network operator. If you focus on the commercial one, you have a very easy process to get approval up to 40 kilowatt PV system. Above 40 kilowatt, you have a more complicated, complex exercise that the network operator have to look at whether transformers and the network itself is capable of providing you that background. And based on that, the process may take much longer than a simple 40 kilowatt system. So if you install like up to 100 kilowatt system, you may face a little bit of procedure and time for connection.
Mas em alguns países, como a Austrália, esse modelo de compensação de energia convencional pode ser limitado pela operadora da rede elétrica. Sendo assim, os consumidores estão buscando saídas diferentes com sistemas totalmente isolados da rede ou parcialmente conectados na rede com o uso de baterias.
So we were looking at how we could replace diesel as a fuel source for our exploration camp. A standalone renewable solution was what we were looking for. The biggest impact from putting in a microgrid a renewable energy microgrid at our exploration camp has been, we have constant power. So previous to this, with diesel generators providing the power, in extreme heats, the generators would derate and sometimes they would shut down. In addition, we had to have people who continuously refilled the generators so that the camp would have continuous power. With the renewable energy solution, this isn't an issue. The generators are only used for maybe an hour a day. Put in a renewable solution, we had some key criteria. First of all, we wanted to make sure that it would replace, for most of the time, the need to use diesel generators. Secondly, it had to be modular and it had to be something that we could easily pick up and move. So that portability was a key. In exploration, if we were to make another discover another mine, we wanted the ability to pick up the solution and move it to the new mine area so that we could start that process off using renewable energy and not having to rely on diesel or gas generators for power. Benefits of having our own renewable energy solution with the battery storage is that our operations have a consistent, reliable power solution. So what I mean by that is diesel generators create spikes in the power and then there's an impact on our electronic solutions. In the extreme heat, sometimes you can't run your air conditioners. We would have to shut those down when we were operating just on diesel generators. Because we have so many hours of sunlight, we are very lucky to be able to rely on our renewable energy 90% of the time. And we don't have to then close. We don't have issues with our electronic equipment. Everything's a smooth, steady state. The guys don't have to turn off their air conditioners in the middle of the day. Operations just continue without having any brownouts. So with the renewable energy system, we don't have any blackouts across our operation anymore.
Essas tecnologias desempenham um papel fundamental na integração eficiente das energias renováveis na rede elétrica e na redução das emissões de gases de efeito estufa.
We really concentrate on the remote locations where the cost of producing energy in the conventional way is very expensive.
A Rocky Ridge Brewery se dedica à produção de cerveja sustentável como parte de sua iniciativa Greener Pastures. A cervejaria localizada em Jingdong, Austrália Ocidental, precisava de uma solução de energia renovável para cumprir o seu compromisso de se tornar uma operação totalmente neutra em carbono e sustentável. A mudança do diesel para o armazenamento solar e por bateria compensa aproximadamente 100 toneladas de produção de CO2 a cada ano de operação, além da economia de custos operacionais obtida por ser totalmente independente de energia.
So for us, it's been a hell of a journey to get to where we are now. We've been constantly adapting, constantly building on our solar system, working with our partners, NATO at Innovative Energy Solutions, to build a bigger and better system. We've finally got to a point where we've got one that matches our size and our growth trajectory, and it's pretty exciting to be one of the first in Australia, one of the first in the world to have a system of this size and scale. The economy's been interesting. It's been changing rapidly, and particularly here in Western Australia, we've been very lucky to have been insulated from the global turmoil that's been seen. That being said, we're always ready for the next changes and the next challenges that'll come to us, but overridingly it's been really positive. We've been very lucky.
A troca por completo da matriz energética na Austrália também traz vantagens econômicas e sociais significativas. Isso inclui a criação de empregos no setor de energia renovável, o desenvolvimento de indústrias locais e a redução dos custos associados à dependência de combustíveis fósseis importados.
Renewable targets here in Australia, of course, the industry, all the big players have a commitment to reduce carbon footprint and also to increase renewables as much as they can. However, we feel that at this stage there is a lot of talk, there's a lot of interest, there are lots of plans, but when it comes to conversion, we find there's a lot of reluctance, and we need to really convince each and every user in each and every project individually of the opportunity for renewable and of the economic viability of renewable systems.
A Austrália enfrenta vários desafios na busca da autossuficiência na produção de energia.
About electric mobility, we just had a chance to share our knowledge at Curtin University, and we discussed about the challenges for electrifying the transportation. The future looks like batteries will be able to run electric cars for a much longer distance. So today we are talking about 400 kilometers range, but in the future we will be looking at 1,600 kilometers, which will make charging far more flexible, and that means your actual charging time won't be restricted, that you have to spend so much time at a certain location before reaching your final destination. So with EV charging, I'm more optimistic that first the distance and range will make it easier. The second, that technology will improve. And the third one is actually the so-called network operators will be using a smart charging technology which will enable batteries to charge whenever it's needed or when the price of electricity is the cheapest.
A transição para veículos elétricos ganha impulso na Austrália. A crescente infraestrutura de carregamento e os incentivos governamentais estão impulsionando a adoção de veículos elétricos, reduzindo a dependência de combustíveis fósseis e as emissões de gases de efeito estufa. Hoje, o Expedição Solar foi conhecer de perto um projeto piloto para neutralizar as emissões também no transporte público. A estação de carregamento de veículos elétricos alimenta o primeiro ônibus de transporte público elétrico da Austrália. Um projeto marcante na iniciativa do governo em direção a práticas de transporte público ambientalmente sustentáveis, usando uma estação de carregamento rápido de veículos elétricos de alta tensão, um conjunto solar fotovoltaico de 100 kW e um sistema de armazenamento de bateria de alta tensão 10V 307 kWh. O sistema de bateria modular 10V armazena o excedente de energia solar fotovoltaica gerada durante o dia e aproveita essa energia para recarregar o ônibus elétrico na garagem durante a noite. Energia 100% verde. A eficiência energética é fundamental para reduzir o consumo total de energia e maximizar o uso dos recursos disponíveis.
We also find that on the part of the clients, there is fairly limited knowledge and technical awareness of the intricacies of a fully integrated renewable system. In other words, we are doing a lot of work educating our clients and providing system solutions for their particular needs in particular applications.
A Austrália tem aproveitado seu potencial de energia renovável e experimentado um rápido crescimento na capacidade de geração solar e eólica.
Yeah, quite apart from the business case for renewables, I think there is absolutely no doubt that the very vast majority of people realize that in order for future generations to enjoy a reasonable way of life as we have done in the past, we have to get on top of the carbon emissions issue, reduce to zero, and also be able to produce power without having any polluting influence on our planet. I think future generations will look at us today, what we have done and what we are implementing in terms of reducing carbon emissions and providing a more a sustainable, livable future for those future generations. And battery storage, energy generation from renewables is a very, very essential part of that process.
A energia solar é uma fonte renovável que tem desempenhado um papel significativo no setor energético da Austrália nas últimas décadas.
We have inclement weather. We also have, seen during COVID, the supply chain was severely interrupted. And if you don't bring your diesel through to destination, obviously you don't have power. So these are arguments that we always bring out in front of the customers so that they understand that renewable energy is something they produce on site, either from solar or from wind power. And high efficiency battery systems will be able to store sufficient energy when the energy generation is down, like in the winter time or in the night time. So the cost of power really depends on where you are located, and we obviously target those locations which are furthest from the grid, and in other words, which have got the highest cost of electricity, to make the comparison as positive as possible with renewables.
O governo australiano tem apoiado ativamente o desenvolvimento de projetos de armazenamento de energia com incentivos financeiros e políticas favoráveis. As redes inteligentes na Austrália estão incorporando tecnologias de gerenciamento de demanda, como tarifas de eletricidade variáveis e programas de resposta à demanda. Isso ajuda a equilibrar a demanda e a oferta de energia, otimizando o uso da rede elétrica e reduzindo a necessidade de investimentos em infraestrutura adicional. As redes inteligentes permitem uma melhor integração das energias renováveis intermitentes, como a energia solar e eólica. Com recursos avançados de previsão e controle, é possível equilibrar a geração de energia renovável com a demanda, maximizando a utilização dessas fontes limpas. As redes inteligentes também estão facilitando a integração de sistemas de armazenamento de energia, como baterias, na rede elétrica. Com a ajuda das redes inteligentes, os consumidores têm acesso a sistemas de gerenciamento de energia doméstica que permitem otimizar o uso de energia, armazenamento e geração local, como painéis solares e sistemas de baterias.
The energy that we produce from the solar and the batteries is about 90% currently. We rely on a diesel genset to back us up through 10% of the time in the event of cloudy days. Future expansions will eliminate the total use of generator at the site. So we install batteries and solar out here because we didn't have enough grid capability to run a site of this size. We required three-phase power, which obviously in some remote locations, as we are here, we didn't have accessibility to. So by using the test volt HV80 system, we are able to get a three-phase supply big enough and reliable enough to run an operation of this size. The future of solar, I think obviously technology always changing, battery storage. I think obviously the size of the units that we're using today may become, smaller, but where technology is at the moment, I think,
O desenvolvimento das redes inteligentes na Austrália é impulsionado por várias iniciativas governamentais e parcerias público-privadas.
How we can preserve. This current generation is working really hard to reduce the impact of climate change. And the only viable solution right now is renewable energy solutions. So I would be encouraging companies and entrepreneurs to think about how they can benefit from renewable solutions and also what that means for their future generations.
A Austrália está no caminho certo para zerar as emissões e promover um sistema energético sustentável.
First of all, I believe the future of energy is decentralized. So when we talk about energy, I never think of centralized energy solution. I think it has to be decentralized, and you have to produce your own energy at the location that you are using it. Not just because of the transfer of energy is actually, you have a loss of 20-30%, but just because you have abundant sun at certain location, why to transfer that energy if you can decentralize it? Number two, energy storage will be crucial in this transition. So I understand that hydrogen and lots of other technologies will be part of this so-called transition. I still believe battery storage is having the technical so-called readiness to an extent that would need very minimum maintenance and very simple technology. When we look at hydrogen, we believe hydrogen could be a very good fit for certain applications such as shipping, such as long distance trucking. But I think the technology itself needs to evolve because today it's a huge complex technology and probably a lot of maintenance would be required. And we have to improve the efficiency of the actual so-called fuel cells and I just forgot the name of when you electrolyzers. So the electrolyzers have to improve as well. So instead of having a complex and complete technology, we have to simplify it in the future and try to implement that in a safe way.
É importante estabelecer parcerias internacionais e colaborar com outros países na busca de soluções inovadoras e no compartilhamento de melhores práticas. A transição para uma economia de baixo carbono trará benefícios significativos em termos de sustentabilidade, saúde pública, segurança energética e oportunidades econômicas. A Austrália está no caminho para zerar suas emissões. Porém, é preciso intensificar as suas ações para atingir um objetivo comum a todos: transformar nosso planeta com energia limpa e renovável.